Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are the Group 4 and we're going to discuss about the EDSA II Revolution 2001, the call for President Joseph Estrada's resignation. EDSA II refers to the mass uprising in January 2001 that led to the removal of President Joseph Erap Estrada and the rise to power of Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. It was called EDSA II because it took place along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, the same symbolic location as the 1986 People Power Revolution that ousted Ferdinand Marcos Sr. To understand why EDSA II happened, we need to look at the political and social conditions of the Philippines at that time. Even after democracy was restored in 1986, political power remained concentrated along traditional elites, a system often called trapo politics, or traditional politics. Political dynasties continued to dominate government, limiting real reforms. At the same time, poverty and inequality remained widespread. Many Filipinos did not benefit from economic growth and continued to face unemployment, low wages, and poor access to basic services. This led to growing public frustration. Corruption also remained a serious problem. Repeated scandals and weak accountability across different administrations caused people to lose trust in the government. During Estrada's presidency, allegations of corruption intensified public anger. Lastly, neoliberal economic policies failed to deliver meaningful social change. Instead of improving lives, these policies often increased inequality. All these factors combined to create widespread dissatisfaction, which eventually sparked EDSA II and the call for Estrada's resignation.
Ito naman ang dahilan kung bakit nagkaroon ng EDSA uprising. At ito ay may tatlong dahilan. First, dahil sa corruption allegations. The main trigger was Estrada's alleged involvement in joining or illegal gambling syndicates, receiving millions in kickbacks, stock manipulation scandals. These allegations were publicly revealed by Luis Chavez Singson, a former political ally. Pangalawa naman is yung field impeachment. Estrada was impeached by the House of Representatives in the late 2000. The impeachment trial moved to the Senate on January 16, 2001. Pro-Estrada senators voted 11 to 10 to block the opening of a K envelope containing bank evidence allegedly linked to Estrada. This act was widely seen as a betrayal of justice, proof that legal institutions were protecting the president, the final breaking point for public trust. At pangatlo naman is yung loss of moral and political legitimacy. Cabinet members resigned, civil society groups withdrew support, and also the Catholic Church, led by Cardinal Jaime Sin, called for public action. And lastly, public outrage spilled into streets. Kaya ito nagkaroon ng pangalawang EDSA uprising.
The EDSA II mobilization in January 17 to 21 in 2001 was a massive, rapid, and text message-driven to protest peacefully remove Philippine President Joseph Estrada due to corruption. Then over 1 million Filipinos gathered at EDSA. And then ito yung mga nangyari doon. Nagkaroon ng prayers, speeches, and civil society mobilization. Then the movement participants included the church groups, students, NGO laborers, and middle class, and also the urban poor. Then the movement demanded, so yung pinaka-primary demand nila is that Estrada's immediate resignation. Ito yung primary goal nila na patalsikin si Estrada, but initially it did not go well because of the pro-Estrada senators. Then also they demand a accountability, and it is a call for public officials to be held responsible for their actions. And lastly, the respect for the democratic principle. And after that, the PNP leadership withdraw its support for the President Joseph Estrada and joined for the protester.
Hi everyone, good day. Today I'll be talking about the role of the military and police during EDSA II, the 2001 people-powered uprising that led to the removal of President Joseph Estrada. First, it's important to clear a common misunderstanding. The military and police did not start EDSA II. The movement was led by ordinary Filipinos, students, workers, religious groups, and other civilians. The protests began after the Senate blocked important evidence in Estrada's impeachment trial, which triggered public anger and massive demonstrations at EDSA. As the protests grew bigger, the role of the military and police became very important. The armed force of the Philippines, or the Army, and the Philippines National Police, or the PNP, eventually withdrew their support from President Estrada. When this happened, Estrada lost his real source of power because no president can govern without the support of the military and the police, right? And another key point is that the military and the police did not take over the government. Instead of launching a coup or using force, they chose to follow the will of the people. This decision helped prevent violence and allowed the situation to remain mostly peaceful. Lastly, the military and the police supported a constitutional transition of power. After Estrada's government collapsed, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was sworn in as president, and the Supreme Court later confirmed that this process was illegal. So, in summary, the military and police played a secondary but decisive role in EDSA II. They didn't lead the uprising, but their decision to side with the people helped protect democracy and ensure a peaceful change in leadership. Thank you.
Ang Estrada's fall and Arroyo's assumption of power. So, during the political crisis noong 2001, President Estrada proposed a snap election as a solution daw sa political crisis na nangyayari sa bansa. Pero tinanggihan ito ng mga protester dahil wala na silang tiwala sa kanyang leadership. Para sa maraming tao, hindi na sapat ang eleksyon at mas gusto na nilang bumaba na lang siya sa kanyang pwesto. Habang lumalala naman ang sitwasyon, his cabinet resigned in mass. Ang sabay-sabay na resignation ng kanyang cabinet members ay malinaw na sinyalis na nawawala na sa kanya ang suporta hindi lang sa publiko, pati na rin sa loob ng gobyerno. On January 20, 2001, Chief Justice Hilario David Jr. swore in Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo as the new president. This moment marked a legal and constitutional transfer of power. Pinapakita rin ito na ang pag-change o pag-iba ng leadership ay sumusunod sa batas. Shortly after, Estrada left the Malacanang Palace at sinabing he stepped aside. Kahit hindi niya tahasang sabihin na nag-resign siya, malinaw na hindi na niya kayang mamuno sa bansa. Later on, the Supreme Court ruled that Arroyo's presidency was legal and constitutional. Ang desisyon ito ay nagpapatibay ng paglipat ng kapangyarihan ay ayon sa konstitusyon. Even after leaving the office, Estrada was charged with plunder and corruption, which showed na kahit ang dating Pangulo ay na-held accountable under the law. EDSA II can be described as a movement with a strong mass participation because thousands of ordinary citizens gathered together to express their anger and disappointment to the government. Maraming tao ang lumabas sa EDSA, hindi lang para magprotesta, kundi para ipakita na gusto nila ng accountability at honest na leadership. The movement was mostly peaceful as people used civic actions tulad ng rallies, prayers at unity instead of violence na nagpapakita ng power of non-violent protest. Isa sa important feature of EDSA II was public accountability. Ipinakita nito na may kakayahan ang mga mamamayan na panagutin ang kanilang mga leader lalo na kapag may issue ng corruption at abuse of power. At the same time, EDSA II was also seen as a defense of constitution and the rule of law, especially after the impeachment trial of President Estrada was stopped. For many Filipinos, the protest became a way to protect democratic principle. However, despite the strong participation of the people, the transfer of power did not lead to major changes in the political or economic system. Ang kapangyarihan ay napunta pa rin sa another elite faction led by Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Walang radikal na restructure na nangyari at maraming civil society at leftist group ang hindi gaanong naisama sa bagong administrasyon kahit may malaking role sila sa pagpaprotesta. Because of this, EDSA II can be viewed in two ways. Isa dito ay it was popular uprising driven by the people collective action and demand for change. On the other hand, it was also an elite-managed transition of power where political elites still controlled the final outcome. Overall, EDSA II showed both the strength and the limit of people power in politics.
Good day, everyone. I will discuss the international and Western media reaction to EDSA II in 2001, especially the call for President Joseph Estrada's resignation. After EDSA II, many Western media and commentators criticized what happened in the Philippines. They called EDSA II a mob action, a civilian backed up coup, and even a violation of the Constitution. Para sa kanila, parang minadali raw ang pagpapatalsik kay President Estrada without finishing the impeachment process. This shows that Western observers focused more on formal rules and institution kaysa sa boses ng mga tao o mga taong bayan. Pero kung titingnan natin mas malalim, these criticisms are not complete. First, the constitutional process already failed when the impeachment trial was blocked in the Senate. Maraming Pilipino na nawala ng tiwala sa proseso, kaya people went to the streets not as a first choice, but as a last resort. Second, the Supreme Court later validated the presidency of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, which means that the transition was not illegal. At isa pa, the military did not lead EDSA II. They only withdrew support from Estrada after millions of civilians protested. Ibig sabihin, ang tunay na pwersa ay ang mamamayan, hindi ang armas. Critically speaking, Western media reactions reflect neoliberal thinking. They value market stability, order, and elite decision making more than mass democratic participation. In this sense, they underestimated the political judgment of ordinary Filipinos. In conclusion, EDSA II was not perfect, but it showed that democracy is not only about procedures, it is also about accountability, public trust, and the people's right to act when institutions fail. Thank you.
Here are the historical significance of EDSA II. First is the Filipinos are willing to stand up against corruptions. Kasi nung nalaman ng mga tao na President Estrada was involved in corruption and no longer deserved to lead, nagsagawa sila ng peacefully gathered to demand accountability. Number two is the democracy in the Philippines are still fragile because kahit na our country is that time is democratic, political problems like corruptions, weak institutions, and power struggles among elites can still threaten fair governance. Third is the people power can remove a sitting president because unlike the elections, the president was removed through a mass protest and political pressure, proving that citizens can, yung mga Pilipino talaga or mga tao can influence major political changes. The last one is EDSA II also revealed that the deep problems like inequality and elite dominance remains unresolved. Kasi nung ni-remove na si Estrada, power mostly stayed sa mga political elite and ordinary people did not experience immediate improvements in their daily lives. So overall, the EDSA II showed that there is a strength of people power when citizens unite for a cause. Also, the limits of democracy, especially when political elites continue to control decision making. So, in conclusion, the EDSA II revolution was a peaceful mass movement that forced President Estrada to step down because of corruption and loss of public trust. And it shows that Filipinos value democracy and are willing to participate in political action. However, while EDSA II followed constitutional processes and changed leadership, it did not bring deep social or economic reforms because power remained mostly in the hands of political elites. And in the end, EDSA II remains a strong example of people power, showing both its ability to create change and its limitations in strengthening Philippine democracy.